case was to give them exactly what they needed, evidence of communists within the government.
The Alger Hiss case represents a battle between totalitarianism and freedom.
David Oshinsky, historian.
And involves some of the central tenets of the Cold War. The Alger Hiss case will always be a fascinating case involving two divergent personalities with very different worldviews.
The Republicans and Democrats have been at each other's throats.
Martin Sherwin, professor of history at Tufts.
And individuals become the symbolic representatives of positions. And they had not simply to be shown to be wrong, they had to be destroyed.
Paranoia was set to sweep the country, unleashing the full force of Senator McCarthy's drive to expose the depth of communist infiltration. And Nixon, in his vice presidential campaign 4 years later, was to play heavily on his role in the Hiss case.
This story begins on August the 3rd, 1948. On that day, the witness before the Committee on Un-American Activities, of which I was a member, was Whittaker Chambers, senior editor of Time magazine. He was an unimpressive witness at first sight, but he told a story that rocked the Capitol right to its foundation.
Mr. Hiss, you say you have never seen Mr. Chambers.
The name means absolutely nothing to me, Mr. Stripling.
I have here a picture of Mr. Chambers, which was made last Monday by Associated Press. I show you this picture, Mr. Hiss. Would you take that over, Mr. Hiss, please? And ask you if you have ever known an individual resembling this picture.
I would much rather see the individual. If this is a picture of Mr. Chambers, he's not particularly unusual looking. He looks like a lot of people. I might even mistake him for the chairman of this committee.
I hope you're wrong in that.
I didn't mean to be facetious, but very seriously, I would not want to take an oath that I have never seen that man. I'd like to see him.
You realize that the man in this picture has testified under oath before this committee where the laws of perjury apply. Testified that he called at your home, conferred at great length, pleaded with you to drop your communist activities, and left you with tears in your eyes, saying, and I quote, "I simply can't make the sacrifice," unquote.
Yes, I do know that, and I also know that I am testifying under the same perjury laws.
Mr. Hiss, can you think of any reason why these charges have been made, either by Whittaker Chambers or by the FBI, or, as you know, by some members of Congress?
Mr. Chairman, as to members of Congress, I am firmly of the view that their information all came from the same source. As to the FBI, it seems in the light of Chambers' testimony that they too had only Chambers as their source of information. As I've said, I have no idea at this moment why he used my name.
Naming names was to become an integral part of the McCarthy witch hunts of the early 1950s. The FBI and the CIA expanded their activities. Spying was big business, spawning books and films. As nuclear war with the Soviet Union seemed ever more likely, thousands of Americans were investigated in the name of security. Robert Lamphere, retired FBI special agent.
Alger Hiss was the presidential advisor at the Yalta Conference, and one can imagine how important it was to the Soviets to know exactly what the other side was proposing. And we also know from history that Yalta was a success for Stalin and the Soviets.
Tony Hiss, son of Alger Hiss.
In this country, ever since Watergate, there's been a longing for a smoking gun, a single piece of paper that will conclusively prove something in any case that has captured public attention and imagination. And that longing can sometimes trip us up.
Nixon not only disliked Hiss, but he had hitched his political fortunes to the committee's anti-communist crusade. However, he needed more ammunition if he was to dent Hiss's composure. Chambers was his only source. As soon as the session with Hiss was over, he drove to Chambers' farm outside Washington and interrogated him deep into the night. He was so impressed with Chambers' description of the Hiss's domestic arrangements, even after a 10-year gap, that he called another executive session of the committee and questioned him closely.
During the time you say you knew Mr. Hiss between 1935 and early 1937, did he know you was Whittaker Chambers?
No, he knew me by my party name of Carl.
How do you know that Mr. Hiss was a member of the Communist Party?
I was told by the head of the underground party in the U.S., J. Peters.
And do you have any factual evidence to back that up?
Nothing beyond the fact that he submitted himself for the 2 or 3 years I knew him as a dedicated and disciplined communist.
During the period you knew Alger Hiss, you can recall personal details.
Some things I've probably forgotten, but I can remember a certain amount.
What nickname, if any, did Mr. Hiss use in addressing his wife?
More often Dilly and sometimes Prosy. Her name was Priscilla.
Did the Hisses have any pets?
A dog, a Cocker Spaniel.
Mr. Mandel?
Did Mr. Hiss have any hobbies?
Both he and his wife were ornithologists. They used to get up early and go out to Glen Echo. Once they came back very excited. They had seen a prothonotary warbler.
A very rare specimen.
Oh, I'm keen on birds, and I've never seen one, Mr.
Did they have a car?
Yes, they did. When I first knew them, they had a Ford Roadster, very dilapidated. I remember it had a hand-operated windshield wiper.
Do you recall any others?
Around 1936, I think it was, he got a new Plymouth.
Do you recall its type?
It was a sedan, a two-seated car.
What did he do with the old car?
Hiss insisted that he wanted the car turned over to the party so it could be given to some poor organizer in the West or somewhere. It was against all the rules of the underground party, but Hiss insisted.
Mr. Chambers, would you be prepared to submit to a lie detector test on this testimony?
Yes, if necessary.
You have that much confidence?
I am telling the truth.
By now, the FBI was taking Chambers seriously. Since 1946, the U.S. security agencies had been intercepting and decoding Soviet diplomatic communications. These so-called Venona intercepts showed how Soviet agents had penetrated U.S. security, including the State Department. But the FBI could not reveal this in court, knowing it would alert the Russians. They had to find other ways.
The amount of evidence that was available to the FBI and the prosecution at the beginning of the Hiss trial came down to a question of believing in Whittaker Chambers. And those of us that had been working this kind of case for a long time, even though I didn't work the Hiss case, we knew, even though Chambers was a strange individual, we knew that there was truth in what he had told us.
Whittaker Chambers seems to me to have been a kind of person that we don't have much experience of in this country and therefore have a hard time coming to grips with. We've become familiar with the concept of the serial killer in the last decades, unfortunately, and we now can sort of recognize that type. Chambers, on the other hand, was sort of a serial liar who periodically would go around telling stories about people and trying to ruin them.
Conspiracy theories surrounded the Hiss-Chambers case. Some believed he was framed by the FBI, others that he was covering for someone else. Job Matuso, former McCarthy witch hunter, later sent to prison for exposing some of the methods used.
The Alger Hiss case was as phony as a $3 bill. The insiders, now, who knew about the Hiss case, really never felt that he was guilty of anything except protecting his wife, Priscilla. According to all the reports that I had gotten from the intelligence sources that I had worked with, she was the one who had been a communist and not he. And that he was being very gallant in protecting her. I knew the people who had prosecuted and persecuted him. And they did it to further the Cold War because of his involvement with the United Nations Charter and things of that kind, and he was a target.
Many people have wondered why Whittaker Chambers would have singled out Alger Hiss.
William Rubin, writer.
In Chambers' book, Witness, published in 1952, 2 years later, he makes the statement to the heart of what he says. When I took up my sling and aimed at Alger Hiss, what I hit was the whole New Deal apparatus that in the 20th century the government has to come to the aid of some of its more underprivileged citizens.
With the committee's faith in Chambers restored, Nixon set off with a transcript of his impressive testimony to convince leading government figures that Hiss had a case to answer. Both the Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, and his brother Alan, the director of the CIA, gave their support. The committee now felt able to beard Hiss at yet another executive session on August 16th. Robert Stripling, HUAC's chief investigator.
I'm quite certain that I have not met Whittaker Chambers, and I cannot think of anyone named Carl remotely connected with the kind of testimony Mr. Chambers has given.
Mr. Hiss, Chambers, he said he spent a week in your house, and he just rattled off details like that. Now, he's either made a study of your life in great detail, or he knew you, one or the other. Or he's incorrect.
The issue is not whether he knew me and I don't remember him. The issue is whether he had a particular conversation with me, and I'm thinking of the tearful parting he described in 1938, which I have denied, and whether I am a communist, as he said I was.
You cannot turn a blind eye.
What I have done is to write down a name here. of a person I knew in 1933 and 1934, and who not only spent some time in my house.